Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talked to Menaka Rodriguez about the impact of art on societies. Hi, Menaka. Thank you for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Venkat. How are you?
I am good, thank you. Could you go ahead and tell me a bit about yourself, where you are from, what do you do, etc.?
Thank you for having me, Venkat. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been listening to your podcast. You've been showcasing quite amazing journeys of different women. So it's really interesting to be part of this journey with you. I'm Menaka Rodriguez. I am the executive director at India Foundation for the Arts. I grew up in a place just outside of Chennai. What I do today is facilitate and support and implement projects across arts and cultures. Really believe in the transformative power of the arts and the value that the arts have in all our lives. That's the belief that drives to support artists, researchers, scholars across a variety of art disciplines. So you could be a dancer, a theater practitioner, a puppeteer. Look to support creative journeys, creative interventions across India.
Great, that sounds great. Can you tell us about childhood value systems that shape the person who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important, right? Childhood shapes a lot of us. Primarily, I think what I was surrounded by and what was instilled was this sense of integrity and authenticity in what you did, to be able to be the person you are authentically, as well as a kind of passion for what one did. Parents who both were very excited about travel, were very excited about exploration. We traveled a lot, we listened to music. In a sense, the arts was very much in our life, and I feel that that exposure that one had as a child very much influenced the journey that I took thereafter. Yeah, so this whole idea of, discovering new things, the joy that it brings of experiencing new things, I think that's something that has stayed with me very strongly.
Okay, so in your work now, you did mention that many kinds of arts, but which one is your favorite, or what is the major area of focus right now?
Of course, anything, that is public facing, that engages people, that engages community and neighborhoods is very exciting. Personally, I enjoy the performance art. I enjoy music, theater. That's something that, and dance as well. And that's something that I'm automatically drawn to. It would be supporting work that is across education, research, and practice. Those are the three key pillars. It could be, from supporting government schools in Karnataka to supporting a theater practitioner who wants to experiment with their own form and create a piece. So yeah, it's quite difficult to say which is my favorite. All the arts, in whichever way expression that artists express themselves, is something that brings a sort of curiosity and joy in how we experience them. So yeah, so all forms of art, Venkat, is what I would say.
Can you share a couple of experiences, personal experiences in your work, which has touched you in your work that you're doing right now?
I'd like to share a couple of experiences that's been very transformative for me personally. It harks back to about 20 years ago, Venkat. I actually found myself in New Orleans. I was doing my master's in arts administration. And what really struck me, a city that had so much depth of flavor and culture and sounds and food, and you walk down the street and you experience art at every corner. It just so happened that I happened to be there during Katrina. We were all displaced because of the floods that happened, but to be able to see a city which was devastated, but to see a community that came together after that, and it's taken years to build that community back again, and be able to do that through the arts, that I think is very powerful. To anchor the coming together of people through the arts, through music, through ensuring that the art has a space in our lives. That was very, very transformative. To see that kind of resilience, that no matter what, and that happened, that's also true during COVID, Venkat. If you realize that, all of us were isolated, but it was the arts that kind of brought us together, that gave us solace. So to be able to see people find solace in the arts at one level, but to also be resilient and to express oneself and respond to what's happening around us each day with the arts is something that really has struck me. Of course, in my current work, there are so many projects that are quite powerful and meaningful. One that strikes me, of course, is a project by an artist working in Madhya Pradesh with a women's group, and they just wanted to explore the idea of leisure and what does leisure mean for these women when they come together in solidarities? Could it be going for a picnic, or could it be stitching a quilt together? And just this kind of coming together of people, that was something that's quite moving.
Great. So you have been working with people a lot. What are the kind of challenges that you have faced working all these years with people?
One of, if I can talk about my early part of my career with IFA, was actually as a fundraiser, Venkat, and we spoke about this as well. One of the key things as a fundraiser is being able to demonstrate the value of the arts and why it's important, and constantly engaging with people to say, hey, support the arts, there's value in it. And in a country where there are other needs and other challenges that people are, other causes that people wish to support, often, we get asked why arts and culture. And then to be able to constantly talk about that has been a challenge. So convincing people that the arts is important, it has value, although we all intrinsically have the arts in our lives, but having those conversations have been much of a challenge. On the other hand, we work with people who, I think, I won't say it's a challenge, what is an opportunity, and part of the excitement of the work is that you're working with creative practitioners. Things shift. There is space for failure. There is space for innovation. There is space for surprising outcomes. And those are some of the things that one has to be open to. That, yes, you set out with a particular idea, but circumstances may change, or new ideas may come in, people bring in different energies. And how can one be open to those shifts and changes and new energies that seep into a project or an idea? And that's been an exciting space as well.
Right. So you mentioned about explaining art to people while fundraising and convincing them. How do you really showcase your artwork? Do you have a specific methodology for that?
One thing I've learned, Venkat, and very early in my career, is that often people don't respond to cold calls and cold conversations, right? It's with their experience of the arts that kind of connects them to you. So it is about building connection and association. And we do this in a variety of ways. Can we show you images of the things we do? But more importantly, what we do is do what we call project showcases, host events, host podcasts like this one. I have a podcast as well. Take projects, the outcomes of projects, which are various, right? Their films, their performances, their publications, their archives. Take them to in events and talks across the country so people can see the work and experience the work. And once they experience the work and they see the shifts or the power that a particular presentation brings to them, that's one way that helps us talk about the impact of the arts. When they see a performance of a musician from Kutch who's reviving a particular tradition, I think that becomes more real for them. So through films, through showcases, try and bring the arts to people so that experience of the arts kinds of makes the connection very real.
Right. Now that you've worked so far in this domain, what are your some of the plans that you have or the roadmap that you have for yourself as a person for the future?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Venkat. I think for the future for myself, of course, I've been in this role 2 years, and there is a growth that one sees for oneself and the organization. But I think for myself, I see the opportunity. One thing I do love to do is travel. So the opportunity to travel, to explore, to experience the different kinds of cultures that are out there, but also, Venkat, to be very open to where my journey may go, like open to opportunity, open to new ideas, because the world is changing so rapidly. Even as we speak, there's AI, there's ecological changes, and we don't know. I mean, I'm always very curious about what is the world going to look like in 2 years and 5 years, and then how are we as individuals going to be responding to that? So to be agile, to be open to those bits are something that I would really be looking forward to, as well as personal growth, whether it's reading or experiencing the arts, or can I then post what I'm doing here contribute meaningfully? Those are some of the things that I keep thinking about. There's no path charted as yet fully. I mean, it's a process, I think. So yeah.
Okay, you spoke about AI. So,
Yes.
how are you using AI in your work, or what impact did the AI have in your work so far?
Actually, it's interesting that you asked. For us, it's quite nascent in our application. We haven't used it in our work internally, and it's changing so rapidly, right? but it's something that the team and I are constantly trying to educate ourselves about, trying to understand. And one of the things that we do have, if you're asking for a roadmap, is to understand how could integrate AI into our systems, but also to understand what are the concerns and issues that might come up with AI. It's an opportunity and it's a tool that can be used by artists and creative practitioners, yes. But at the other end, there could be concerns of copyright and usage and, the shape that it will take in the future. So it's a constantly evolving space, which you know better than I do. So that's something that we're just trying to understand is where we are at right now.
So, we spoke a lot about your work. Is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of what you're doing? Anything else you would like to add to the thought process?
Venkat, I just want to talk about my journey a little bit and go back a little bit,
Sure.
just to share with people that sometimes you have a certain idea of what you want to do, but then your journey or experiences or circumstances take you elsewhere, and there can be some unexpected things that come in that, and that's what I wanted to share with your listeners. So interestingly, I have a background in archaeology, so I trained to be an archaeologist. I was very much interested in history and then circumstances I wanted to do a PhD, and then I decided not to do that, and I said, okay, let me do a master's in arts administration, the idea being that I would still work in the area of heritage management and history. There was one experience that kind of changed that path that I had decided for myself. I had the opportunity to work in a museum, and I was working a very lonely space in the basement cataloging, certain archaeological artifacts. And then I had the opportunity to work at a theater company. And I really, really enjoyed that experience of being front of house, showcasing plays and performances, and to be able to see audiences walk in, experience that with them, gave me a lot of joy. And I realized that while I loved archaeology, I also loved being around people. I loved sharing the arts with people. It so happened that this theater company was such a small place that was just three of us who looked after lights, box office, fundraising, etc. And whether one liked it or not, one just stumbled into fundraising. So I didn't train to become a fundraiser. I wasn't going down that path. But when you start to work with smaller nonprofits and organizations, it's something that you learn along the way. And then I've built a career starting with being a fundraiser. So I think it's really just to say to listeners that sometimes we have a certain idea of where we want our journey to go through, but there are different experiences that come along the way and they lead you down another path. And I'm very grateful that it's led me down this path through many, many meandering experiences along the way.
Wonderful. That's a great thing to share, and it's very valuable for the listeners. Now, let's talk about your hobbies and interests and what you do apart from work.
I love the outdoors. I love nature. So whenever, not as much now, but I do love to go out on little hikes. I like to walk out in parks and in little forests around Bangalore, as you know. So I enjoy the outdoors a lot. And that gives me a lot of, it centers me. And it also, like, the fresh air, the greenery is just very, very, very refreshing. So travel is also another area that I really enjoy because I'm a history buff, I'm an archaeologist by training, but I just love visiting museums. I love catching shows. The personal and the professional is very much intermeshed, where I experience things because I love it as a personal level, but it also is linked to my work.
Okay, let's now talk about some societal issues that you care about and what you do about them. Of course, apart from the work that you're already doing.
Sure. One of the things that interests me a lot, what we are doing to the environment for sure is a concern for all of us. But I think at the more intimate level, what we are doing in our urban spaces is definitely of interest to me. How can we work within neighborhoods, within, resident welfare associations to address some of these challenges, whether it's, cutting down of trees, the lakes around our cities. So ecological concern is something that interests me a lot. I'm very interested in waste management and how can we reduce consumption and reduce the generation of waste that we're creating every day in our, as we live our lives. So to find at a personal level, trying to find ways to recycle, upcycle, repurpose, but also reduce the packaging that comes with all of this material. So yeah, that's something that I'm very much interested to. I'm always looking at organizations that do this work. And very recently talking to a group where, can we mobilize people at neighborhood levels? I mean, I know a lot of neighborhoods are doing it. I mean, a lot of people in Bangalore City are doing this, but how can I get involved, or how can we as a community get involved in addressing some of these concerns? So that's something I'm really interested in.
Okay, great. So, are you actively volunteering for these efforts?
Yes, in my local community, I do some sort of collection. Clothes that can be repurposed, take every kind of waste that then can be repurposed into other material that people can use. Working with communities to address these drives and just take this material is something that I am part of.
Wonderful, great. So we are coming towards the end of the podcast. Do you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask me?
Yeah, sure, Venkat. I would love to ask you, what are you? I mean, I know that you're a avid writer, and then of course you are a podcaster and you host this conversation. But what are your other interests or causes that you are passionate about?
So primarily I'm a tech person. So I come
Right,
from a technology background. So I keep working on technology.
right,
And writing as well as the podcast are my hobbies at this point of time. That apart, I like bit of traveling, not too far away, visiting the nearby cities and nearby places. I explore. I'm a solo traveler, so I go
right.
and experience places by myself. Apart from that, I read. I like going to different places in Bangalore to explore spaces which support creativity and all the art events that are happening. Once in a while I go and experience them.
Spoken like a true techie. But thank you for sharing that. It's quite fascinating. I mean, AI is something that also interests me. I don't know very much about it, but like you said, it's ever evolving and is something that we need to stay in touch with. The other aspect that you spoke about, creating spaces where people can read, just sit and write and just be themselves, and also be around people with similar interests. Those adda spaces, that's also another interest of mine. Can we create more of those cultural addas around the city where there's no restrictions on gathering and sitting and just being with self and books, etc.
Right. Thank you so much for accepting my invite and appear in the podcast and spending time with us. I wish you all the best in your life and whatever you aspire to do. Please take care and bye for now.
Yeah, thank you, Venkat. Thank you for having me.
Great. Bye. That was a great podcast with Menaka Rodriguez. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.